Nope, it died again.
Oh shit.
Oh,
Now I can't start the recording. Starting the output failed. Let
It's
me go back in. We're streaming. We're streaming. Everyone can watch us fuck with it now. So
okay.
let me go back
That's
into
good.
settings and we'll start we'll fuck with the actual settings while we're live fucking around with things.
That's great. Let's do.
we definitely don't have experience with that.
But I'm wondering why changing that in streaming did not let me record, since I've been using OBS like for 4 days to make YouTube videos without streaming.
Mhm.
That is a question and a half.
I don't know, man.
The wife's
It's-
talking shit in Twitch chat, so I mean,
sure
we're,
is. It's-
we're living the high life. Oh man,
Look
it's
at
for
that.
technical difficulties.
Woo! Look at me spending that Google money.
I feel like that alert there was a little slow and laggy. Okay. I have no options that I see to change for the actual recording encoders to make it suddenly work. So this is us. This is what running an RPG stream is like. It's three guys staring at computers going, why is it not working? It was working an hour ago.
much.
Wasn't it working for you?
Yeah.
100% it right there. Yeah, there's no. Like, I've ran into the trouble where it won't start recording before because we've got. On one of our other stream boxes, we had it set up to do streaming and recording simultaneously. So you just
Yeah.
hit the stream button, and the recording would break it a lot. And the solution was cycling OBS.
There is, in fact, a hardware encoding option that I can play with, except it's grayed out and I can't play with it, and I don't know why.
Because we're
It's
streaming.
because you're streaming.
But it shouldn't affect the recording side.
Yeah,
Like, those are two different.
kind of.
I don't know. Whatever.
Hi
I can.
there.
It's RPG Jesus 8. I'm super fucking lazy, and we can just fuck it, do it live, and then I will pull down the Twitch recording, and I will edit that in a video editing software because we're working with limited time, and we've already lost 10 minutes.
All right.
That works.
So back to the top. Countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we are live.
Whoa!
Kind
Oh,
of.
man.
Again, I mean, we've been live, but then OBS decided to screw with us. So we're now officially live again. I'm OneCritWonder. I got two of the guys from Defenders of Kobold here, and we're going to talk about RPGs for an hour because that's a thing that we like to talk about and do and stuff. So tell us who you are, guys. Any, mini, miny, mo.
We'll go with Joe because it rhymes with Mo. So go ahead, Joe.
Oh man. I'm Joe, also known as Savory. I go by that sometimes. I play mostly as player characters on the Defenders of Kobold, but I just recently started a stream on every other Tuesday night, running my own game over the internet on Roll20. And
Also on Defenders of Kobold.
yeah, also on Defenders of Kobold. All three of that, yeah.
And that would leave me. I am Chuck, also of Defenders of Kobold. I run games and I play in Joe's campaign, and it's a lot of fun. First time playing a paladin, and surprising kobolds is a great thing you can do as a paladin. So,
A 5th edition paladin?
5th edition paladin, yeah.
Yeah.
I know y'all run multiple games, and I know that there was some tinkering with 4E, so that was going to be one of the questions that I had for you is, y'all got multiple campaigns and multiple DMs, so what all are you playing, and do you keep it mostly in the same systems, or do you have like a rotating process there?
There's no process. That's the answer. We got.
Yeah.
We
Didn't
have.
seem like the kind that had a process. More of just like a Rochambeau. Like, I'll do this. Who wants to try 4E?
I don't even think
That's
it's
pretty much
that.
that.
Yeah. Well. Okay. So we got Joe's game. He's running every other Tuesday in Gebrin Dalathor. I don't know.
Gebrin. Yeah,
Gebrin Dalathor.
Yeah.
Gebrin Dalathor.
He threw a bunch of Scrabble tiles at the floor and picked a name out of that.
Pretty much.
Then we got DM Alex. He actually ran this previous Friday. Joe and Alex are both running 5th edition. As far as I know, you guys are planning to stick in 5th edition.
Yeah.
And then I am the odd one of the bunch. I run the opposite Fridays of Alex. So Alex and we swap Fridays. I was running 5th edition for a real long time. Then there's this little crew called the Notorious DMG that you may or may not have heard of. And they
I may have been part of.
Yeah. And they begged and pleaded for me to run 4th edition because I was the one who had the most 4th edition experience. So I needed to practice 4th edition. So I subjected, these guys to 4th edition. And then I found Dungeon and Crawl Classics because I wanted to get up on DCC for the Dark Trails Kickstarter, which just funded this morning.
Did it?
Yep. So it's going, which is fantastic. So we're in the middle of playing some Dungeon Crawl Classics. We ran a funnel, and everyone hated it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've not had the most fun with funnels, and I saw that you were talking about the funnel, and so
Yeah.
I don't know.
We're
Every time I
gonna-
play DCC, everyone wants to do the funnel, but then everyone hates the funnel. So maybe there are groups that like the funnel, but man, I would like a group who would try something that's not the funnel, so that I can see if there's more there. Or
Well,
if,
Yeah.
we'll watch this coming Friday because we're going to kick into a level 2 adventure, a published adventure from DCC. So you can see some actual leveled play that's not a funnel. So that'll be great. And then after we do some DCC in my game, I plan on moving us into Zweihander for a while because that just launched the revised core rulebook last week.
yeah,
So-
you need a forklift to carry the damn thing around, is what I hear.
Yeah, I've got the.
Yeah.
Let me lean over. Oh, goddamn.
Lift with both hands, using your legs, not your back.
So there's the book, and there's the.
Jeez.
It's like
pretty
it's wider
It's
than my
bigger
microphone.
than normal too.
Yeah,
it's
it's an amazing book. The artwork's great.
Mhm.
Everything in it's fantastic. It's one of those books that's actually fun to read instead of just being like homework.
yeah.
But it is. I have 2 of them, and on Friday I carried both of those books and my DCC book, which is also giant,
Yeah.
over to Dan's place for our Friday night game, and I thought I was gonna die. It was so much weight on my little backpack.
One of the like bonuses, I guess, to having run so many of my games online lately is that I don't have to drag stuff everywhere anymore, because I used to have to like figure out how can I mark these as my books without defacing them forever, because I've seen people draw in them or highlight the edges of the page or whatever, and I can finally just be like, I don't have to worry about that. All of my stuff is still in the same room.
Nice.
But I also just enjoy online and being able to copy paste out of PDFs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that so many game companies have started selling digital copies of their books, despite the fact that people can spread them around. Like,
Yeah.
I find it a much better resource for my prep work to be able to sit on my computer and type up everything and OneNote everything or Roll20 or whatever I'm going to do. And like, I don't have to worry about A, lugging 45 pounds of books around, B, losing or damaging them, or C, taking up the entire kitchen table with like 40 books and 6 notepads and a laptop.
Yeah.
I can just keep my pile in here where, I'm supposed to have my pile.
Hmm.
That's yeah. Before we started streaming on the channel, we were playing in my living room, uh, and it was nice not having, like you said, I didn't have to haul anything around.
Yeah.
But then when we started streaming, we set up our little studio in Dan's basement, and he lives, a block away from me, so I just walked down there.
Hmm.
So now all of my DM gear, I have to lug over in my backpack.
That's what I've enjoyed about hosting when I do run RPGs in Meat Space or like board game nights and stuff like that is normally we have a house that's worth hosting at. I've never had to be the person that's like, I'm going to be the person running everything, but I need to come to your space. So can you like, can I show up an hour before everyone so that I can set up everything and do all of the things and all of the stuff? Like, I like it being I can put out everything and draw the maps and have them the night before and stuff in my space, but I don't have a. If I wanted to do an in-person stream game like you guys do, I don't have somewhere where I could just like have all of the cameras and everything set up and be like,
Right.
okay, we're done, let's go, because I'm in California and we don't have basements or them kind of things. So like,
Yeah.
I'm in what's technically the house's formal dining room right now, and it's just my pile of nerd stuff. So.
Nice.
But that was going to be one of the questions I had is I'd seen your stream and I knew that y'all had like a space set up, but I couldn't actually tell whether that was like, did somebody sacrifice a living room or a bedroom or what?
Uh, yeah, it's Dan's basement. We're
Hmm.
we're vaguely located in the Midwest, so basements are a must-have. Tornadoes and stuff. Uh, so luckily, Dan has a ridiculously huge basement. Like his basement is as large as his house, and it was,
Hmm.
finished. He wasn't using the space, so we just had to help him do a little renovation, and uh, he was able to give us a pretty good chunk of space for the our little studio area without inconveniencing him and fought. I lost my him and his family.
Yeah. And we're still only using like half of the space in his basement for like all of the tables and the computer and the microphones and cameras.
Yeah.
So what made y'all decide to go from like just playing in a living room to like, let's set up cameras and computers and blankets and make a stream fort out of this? Like, where was, did that come
Chuck one
out?
day was like, "Hey, let's start streaming." We're gonna
Yeah.
That's
go to Dan's
I didn't
house.
know if it was like a group decision, like, hey, we could be internet famous, or if, like, with my stream, it was just like, hey, guys, I'm going to stream. And if you guys aren't okay with that, then, like, sorry.
yeah.
A little bit. Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. Oh, Jake, he's in your chat right now. He's talking about that money.
Yeah, that money,
Uh,
though.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it
No.
was. I was sitting around watching. How much the streaming D&D was just booming at the time. Like everyone's, and I'm like, man, we're. I think we're funny. I think we run interesting games. We could stream a game, and I bet we could get some traction with it. And then one day, Dan's just like, you can use my basement. And I'm like, great. Hey,
Let's
everyone,
let's
go to
do it.
Dan's house Friday instead of. Luckily, Joe and the rest of the crew are very forgiving about the wild hairs that I catch up my ass and run with. Because I definitely, I have a bad time of not asking and just doing.
Yeah. It was very it was like we're meeting at Dan's house. Also, there's cameras and microphones and it's on Twitch. But yeah. But I don't
So
know.
so
I like
bring
it.
your A game, everybody.
Yeah, pretty
Pretty
much.
much. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
don't
Yeah.
think it was a bad thing at all though. I think I like I kind of like the direction it's been taking.
Do you
Um,
do y'all find that you're different on camera. Like that's a thing that people throw around with everything from Critical Role to, some of the smaller D&D streams is like, do you have an on-camera persona that's different from just a bunch of dudes in a basement playing nerd shit?
I'd say the main difference with us on camera versus off camera is on camera we pay attention a lot more to what's going on.
Yeah.
And off camera we didn't.
Yeah.
That's the main difference I've noticed. I don't really feel like I have a persona or anyone's really acting different for the game while we're playing.
Don't ham up the D&D your mama jokes any extra.
No.
No.
I've got.
We cut back on.
It took a while. Like you could tell people were a little uncomfortable at first with being on camera.
Mhm.
So it took a few months for, people to start kind of opening up back a little bit. I've got a abnormally large personality that can, be a little much for people. So it carried through, I think, pretty well for the stream, and I didn't have to change anything. But like Joe said, yeah, our focus on the game.
Mhm.
I saw that on chat. And yes, a little egotistical. It's fine. My wife doesn't mind, so that's what counts.
Yeah.
But oh no, I've lost my train of thought.
We were talking about staying focused, so it's fitting.
Very ironic here. No, like we were actually talking about this on our Notorious DMG chat last night. How pre-stream we would show up and we would hang out for like 6 hours and maybe get like 30 minutes of gameplay in.
Yeah.
We were in my living room, TV was right there. Everyone could cast to the TV, so a lot of it was just watching stupid YouTube
Hey,
videos.
have you seen this on YouTube yet? I saw this
Exactly.
on Reddit
There was
the
a
other
lot
day.
of that. Like I remember Alex's game. There were nights we wouldn't play a single thing, D&D or Pathfinder.
Yeah.
We were playing a lot of Pathfinder at the time.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't do anything D&D related. We'd just we're all friends, so it'd be 2 weeks.
I mean,
the last time.
That's not necessarily bad though. Like if you're just hanging out and being goofy with your friends, I miss that about the playing in person. I've moved to the middle of nowhere in California where I've honestly tried really hard to like get groups together to do things, and like made a Discord server, and like not even just for my town, it's actually for like 6 towns, and just like, come on guys, let's do stuff, and people just won't make the effort into showing up. And it's that classic like everyone's interested in playing D&D until you're like, okay, 7:00 Friday, and then suddenly you don't have 50 interested players who want to play D&D. But like I missed that about my old town, is there were times where we'd go over for board game night or D&D night or whatever, and it was just 6 hours of hanging out and like you said, stupid YouTube videos, the pizza will be here soon, and oh my god, have you seen this type stuff. But yeah, it's interesting to see the difference in playing a game and playing a game that's streamed and playing an in-person game versus an online game, because the difference in a around the table type game, even like y'all stream compared to my stream, 2 people at your table can like lean over and say something to the people next to them and not like sidetrack the game, even though there's microphones and stuff. But my game, everyone's in the same Discord chat. Right. And if someone starts telling like your mama jokes, like the DM now can't talk. So you have to wait till people finish, or, push more on that. Like, hey, if you got like non-related shit, send it in the text chat.
Yeah. And we still have that, I think. I tend to get a little more agitated with crosstalk. And so definitely, Joe can tell the story. I used to have a Nerf gun next to me when I would run. And, if it was like, you guys need to pay attention and you're not, I'm going to cap you with a Nerf dart.
It's the equivalent of like the angry dad snapping. It's a Nerf dart to the side of the head.
The mom with the flip-flop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm reading what he wrote in chat here about pulling back from the camera at first. I think that's one of the things I liked about my slow steps. I didn't start with the camera, right? I was just doing a Roll20 game and on Discord. Actually, we were on Skype at first, but we started audio only. And so people had a tendency to forget that we were streaming because we were all just like still talking like normal. The stream was something that was happening over in the background. And again, I didn't start as a streamed game. We were playing a game, and I was like, hey, I'm going to learn to do this streaming stuff. Do you guys care if I start recording and learning to mess with OBS and audio and stuff? So it was gradual steps. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, I guess I'll put my freaking face on the things that I do. And so I went from like audio only YouTube videos to like, here's my face. I'm going to talk about nerd stuff. And I finally upgraded from the dinky little webcam that you guys are seeing me on to like the I'm seriously like doing things now. Here's a, DSLR camera, and like y'all were joking about money earlier. It's like, yeah, I got that $1.34 from my Google wallet from my bits and everything else this month. That totally helps offset that $500 camera.
Yeah.
Now it's a $499 camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, I got $3 on coffee, so I can totally start looking at upgrading my $30 mic to like a $200 mic.
There you go. You've got us beat on coffee.
I think it was a pity $3 to be honest.
Is that
whatever.
I'm desperate.
It's still $3.
I would.
I
take
mean,
the
yeah,
pity
$3 is $3. But I made a post that had nothing to do with D&D, and somebody was like, "Oh yeah, here's $3, dude."
You need this.
Yeah, you need this more than I do.
That's great.
I'm hitting it big though. I got my $3 on coffee. I have not one but two patrons now at the $1 level. So like big things are coming, guys.
We need to. We've got our coffee. We've got our Patreon. We've got I think it's through Streamlabs or whatever little bot we've got running on our Twitch that's got a donations thing. And so far it has netted us a whole lot of nothing.
I didn't start this to like ever make money. And so I still do the like everything that people send on coffee or Patreon or that's only going to go into the channel. I have a day job, like food will be on the table, the bills will be paid.
Yeah.
All the stuff I'm buying for my nerddom stuff is just everything else is taken care of. Here's my hobby money. Yeah. And so like I'm not putting myself off, and I'm also not trying to quit the day job and like become some YouTube star. So if $3 shows up, hey, that's $3 I didn't have. But talking about all the different things that you're on reminded me of the fact that you're Defenders of Kobold on some things, but then Kobold Defenders on others, just because of character limit, I'm guessing. But I've always been curious where that name actually came from. Like, why
Defenders
are you
of
guys the Defenders of Kobold?
Just like how I decided one day we were going to stream, I equally decided one-handedly that our name was going to be Defenders of Kobold. It started. The name came from when we were playing 4th edition years and years and years ago. And it was definitely in that time where, like Jake wants me to tell about owlbears. We can talk about owlbears later. It was in that time before I knew what I was doing, how to put together an adventure or anything. And we were playing 4th edition, and I thought it was, just tactical combat. That's not the point though. Anyway, so putting together monsters, I just had I really like kobolds. I don't know, they were idiots. They like to make traps. They had giant egos that was pretty undeserved, and maybe I saw a little bit of myself in that. So I'm like, I really like kobolds. And then so one day at the table, Jake and Alex, I think they were the only 2 players that have carried through. I'm like, hey guys, you should name your party in the game Defenders of Kobold. And they're like, that's a stupid name. Why would we ever do that? And I'm like, all right, I remember that. And then so when the stream started, I'm like, we need a name. I'm like, God, I love that name, Defenders of Kobold. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's pretty much the amount of discussion we had on it.
Yeah.
I like it. I did it. I'm the guy that put this together. Bam.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I definitely.
I wasn't taken, so that was
That was a perk, you know.
That was a perk.
I found a name I liked, and it was available. So
Yeah.
I never.
That was the hard thing about picking a name with anything.
Yeah, I was gonna say I never had the same name across multiple platforms before because I started, when the internet started claiming names on lots of older sites, but then I wasn't doing Twitch and Twitter and stuff like that. So like the name that I used on most message boards in the late 90s was just Bounty Hunter because I liked Star Wars and Boba Fett, and I was a typical like Star Wars nerd. And so Bounty Hunter, cool. But then like I joined the military and was away from the greater internet for a little bit. And when I came back and was like, oh yeah, I should start doing all this social media stuff. Turns out bounty hunter is a really common fucking set of words that gets taken on like everything ever. And so I had to start like coming up with different screen names for different things. And then I was finally like, okay, I'm going to rebrand and I'm going to make like this RPG channel thing that I'm trying to do. What's something that I can get on everything? And not only that, something that's like memorable. So I came up with OneCritWonder. It was kind of funny. It was short enough to fit on most sites without hitting character limit. And there's a site out there that will like search everything and see what sites usernames are taken on. And it like hit green on everything but Twitch. And I was like, fine, good enough. Like OneCritWonder TV, good enough. Like people will figure it out. Because of course, OneCritWonder was taken by an account that hasn't done anything in like 4 fucking years and won't respond to like, hey man, can I have your screen name? But I digress.
Yeah. No, we got lucky. Defenders of Kobold wasn't taken. It reminds me of the story. If you ever get Seth from the Monday Nights on this, he has a story very similar to yours. Where they came up with the name The Monday Nights and got it running everywhere except for I think whatever platform it was. It was taken by a LARPing group that hadn't done anything for like 8 or 9 years, and they won't respond. So
I'm at the point where like sometimes I think of names and then like go on to Twitter and it's not taken, so I steal it just so that I have it. And I know that some of the stuff out there that I want, somebody else has probably done that, but I probably have like 5 witty RPG names just like in my back pocket. Like nice. Roll High Don't Die was not taken, so I stole that shit. And then when I was like, I need something that's like going to say this series of things. So Roll High Don't Die is my like conversation starters and polls and like collaborative stuff instead of like OneCritWonder could be fucking anything. It could be me playing video games or RPGs or what, but Roll High Don't Die is like this thing. So
yeah.
But I'm hoping to do a official RPG stream under the Roll High Don't Die moniker, hopefully towards the end of the summer, now that I have cameras and like better knowledge of the OBSs and like official stream overlay things to put together. So I'm hoping to like con 4 players into maybe something similar to like we do with Notorious DMG where we rotate through stuff.
Yeah.
Or maybe just like, I don't want to start out with like Storm King's Thunder, buckle up for 40 sessions. This is going to take a year, but like quick little 3 to 5 session arcs of trying stuff out, probably.
Yeah. That's a good way to do it. Cycle everyone through.
How did y'all get the current like who's GMing when schedule that you got? Is it just speak up and see what fits, or does everyone at the table GM, or just like the 3 folks?
Well, right now there's 3 of us. Yeah, there's Alex, myself, and Joe. Chris, he DM'd in Joe's slot before Joe, but he ended up having to step down. So then Joe, you were wanting to run a game. Yeah. So you took over that spot. But the kind of the core of our schedule is the Friday games, the alternating Friday games, started, back when we were playing at the house Friday nights. Initially, for the longest time, I was the DM, and we kind of stopped playing for a little bit. And then I got that itch like, oh, we want to play again, but I want to play as a player. Alex is talking about how he wanted to start running a Pathfinder game. So I twisted his arm and he said he would start running Pathfinder. And that's when like we brought in, Joe, you came in, and a bunch of other people.
Mm-hmm.
Alex's game showed up, and then we played that for maybe a session or two. And I realized, like I really enjoy playing, but I need to run a fucking game. Like I got to scratch that itch. So then we moved it to Alex would run one Friday and I would run the other Friday. And that's kind of where we stuck with it. And so that's the core schedule, is the alternating Fridays, and we got Joe's game on Tuesdays. Jake wants to start running a game, and he's working on writing campaign stuff. So maybe we'll spin up a fourth game, or we'll figure something out.
I might swap my spot out for him too, because the arc that I have going, I don't plan on being as long as either Alex's or your game.
Yeah.
I just plan on this plot point going through. So I'm kind of planning on maybe being Jake, alternating,
swapping back and forth.
Third, yeah.
Does the Defenders of Kobold group as a whole plan on sticking to fantasy, or would y'all consider rotating through other things, like running a random sci-fi game here and there, or is like sword and sorcery where it's at?
Yeah, Alex. Yeah, I want to run lots of things, so it's definitely in the cards.
How
right?
I know Alex has mentioned that he wanted to do a Star Wars game or something at some point.
He wants to do a sci-fi game, and I think he was waiting for. There's a new Cyberpunk edition based off of the D20 system that's supposed to be coming out at some point.
There's Carbon 2185, which is like the OGL of 5e made Cyberpunk. Maybe.
I think that's what he was talking about.
It's I backed it on Kickstarter. Okay. Some of the like playtest documents and stuff are out, but it is not out yet.
Yeah. So I think he was maybe waiting on that to run some Cyberpunk. He wants to run something non-fantasy, specifically to answer your question. I'm wanting to get into Zweihander, which is real low fantasy.
Yeah, more grim, realistic kind.
Of course, when the Dark Trails, when that comes out, I want to run that on the stream, which is, it's still fantasy, but it's...
I was going to say, what's Dark Trails? I've got so many projects in the back of my mind.
That's the Weird West using the Dungeon Crawl Classics rule set. So it's all Wild West theme, That
reminds me that I've still never got to play Deadlands, despite the fact that I've wanted to play Deadlands for a while now.
I have not. And honestly, the games that we've ran regularly in the past, it's mainly been 5th edition. There was some 4th edition back there. There was some Pathfinder back there. I ran a Star Wars Fantasy Flight campaign for Alex, Dan, Jake, and my wife Ashley were in it. And that went for maybe a year. So we don't have a lot of experience in different systems. So that's I'm definitely wanting to try and branch out. And
the wife's talking shit in Twitch chat right now, and she wants to play in a Star Wars game where I can actually play, because that system, I'm the forever GM that if I want to play something, normally I have to not only learn it and set up the stuff and GM it, but then also be the tutorial person that teaches it to everybody. And we were actually playing with Steven and his wife from Notorious DMG, but I had the Roll20 subscription and stuff that let me like do it. So I was like, yeah, I'll run it. That way the wives and everyone can see it. But she totally wants to like play with some of the characters that I've built. So this is me totally saying that you should run a Star Wars one-shot one time after you let me play some 4E.
You watched my last Star Wars one-shot. I butchered and forgot all of those rules, so I would definitely...
I forgot about that. I totally showed up and was like, wait a minute, what? And like
Yeah.
I don't always like being the guy that shows up in Twitch chats and is like, well, actually the rules say blank. But sometimes it, as a GM, it can totally help to just have some nerd on the internet like,
Yeah.
wait, he's doing that wrong. Let me go get where that's at so that I don't have to
Yeah.
stop what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mhm.
I knew with you specifically that you weren't going to be like, be
No.
on rules lawyer, that like me chiming in and saying, hey,
Yeah.
this is how melee works.
Yeah, no, and I really appreciated that. That definitely saved my bacon that night. Well, it was one of those nights where it was Alex's night, I think, and Alex last minute couldn't make it, and then a bunch of other people couldn't make it, and I'm just like,
Yeah, I don't think I was
okay,
there for that either.
yeah, and I'm like, all right, I need to run something. I don't have anything prepped. I don't want to run fifth edition. I don't want to run fourth edition. Uh, And so I decided like, oh, I'm just going to go out and buy one of the, because I've got the Edge of the Empire starter set. Like I want to go buy one of the other starter sets, and I'll just run that. Like I know what the system is. I know the rules. It'll be nice and easy. And I forgot all the rules in the
Well, see,
system.
I have all three starter sets, and I've ran the Edge of the Empire one multiple times now, and I've like read through the Age of Rebellion one.
Yeah.
And as much as I love me that system, the one thing that I hate about that system and its starter sets is like with most starter sets, for some reason, the starter sets are not legal with the rules. Like the characters
Yeah.
that you get in the starter sets aren't like rules legal, and there's several things that because they came out with the starter set before the fucking rule book that they've changed the rules. And so there's sometimes where I'm like, I think this is the rule, and I look in the adventure book for the starter set and it's like, no, do it this way. And then later I'm like flipping through the book and I'm like, man, I was right, this fucking starter set. And so
Yeah.
the at least Edge of the Empire and Age of Rebellion both have things where you read them in the starter set and they're like, initiative works this way, and then you look and you're like, that's not at all how that works. And then there's a few other like little tidbits, and then like the characters are just not at all system legal. Like they're
Right.
not made with the rules for the system. They're just a pre-generated character that can do things.
Yeah. Yeah. Previously, I've ran that starter set a few times, and when we started in the campaign that I played, we started with the starter set, but we made characters and ran through the scenario. I think if we would have tried to, like you're saying, they weren't rules legal characters. If we would have started with those characters and tried to move those characters into the actual campaign, we would have had to eventually realize our mistake.
Yeah, like there's again, I love me the system, but if you take the starter set, it teaches you how to like level up the characters the first time. And level up's not the right word since there's not levels in that
Right.
system. But like once you finish the starter set, if you were then to like, let's go play Beyond the Rim. Once the characters did the first like combat and had some XP to spend, you would very quickly realize that you are not an actual career in the system, and you can't buy things right. Chat's talking about my wife's Wookiee.
Nice.
I don't want to like spoil anything for the starter set for anyone watching that hasn't played it, but not just in the starter set, but even in the full campaign that we played, the wife loves like big like smash everything characters, even in 5e and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
she's thrown no less than 3 people out the airlocks, ripped one person's arm off, and like her general like interrogation method involves like cutting off like appendages.
Oh,
Like
that's fantastic.
in the D&D starter set. I had previously ran it, but I was playing as a player, and a friend of mine was running it and planning to have it lead into a 5e conversion of the Red Hand of Doom. I don't know if either of y'all played that back in 3rd edition. But we had one of the orcs that was like bait to lead us into Red Hand of Doom. And we were, or not orcs, hobgoblins. We had this hobgoblin captive, and like we were asking him questions and he wasn't answering. So the wife just walks up and like, great axe to the foot and chops his foot off. And then we had a really interesting question about whether you could use mending to put the guy's foot back on, and the DM arguing against that because you can't. but then me being the jackass character
Mhm.
that I am, arguing that mending says it can fix any tear less than 1 foot or 1 foot or less. And I'm like,
It is
it's
1
1
foot.
foot. Like, it says right there, it can fix anything 1 foot or less, and we only cut off 1 foot. And so
Oh, that's great.
we just had a fun, like, let's be smarmy with the rules, like
Mhm.
starter set, because I'm an asshole.
Oh, that's
Um,
good.
Pretty good. It sounds
But-
like the interrogation tactics you guys used on the captured guards in my campaign.
what did they do?
I had them. There were 4 like hit fake guard people that they had captured or had captured for them, and they were supposed to interrogate them. And there was this roper beast. I'm not sure if you're familiar with those. It's basically a rock and tentacles, and it eats things. And then they're like, "Oh, we have to interrogate him. Well, let's
They're
just
the,
throw
they're
one
the
right
things
in,
from
right off the
Half-Life.
bat."
Just
And-
chuck them in and let them get sucked up.
yeah. That was their opening statement for the other 3.
Yeah.
The wife's is a great person to to be stuck in a game with. Chuck has played with her once. Actually, I think Joe, you were in a game with her as well.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
was a druid in the game. I think that Joe was in. I don't remember what she was for the one shot I ran that you were in, Chuck.
I don't.
But her characters are always the one that's end up getting like mind controlled or confused or any of those like takeover spells, because she's a big beefcake with a great axe and then immediately turns around and stabs my character.
That's great.
But there's been a couple of times where both of y'all as DMs can know that if you have a fork and there's 2 ways to go, that the party will like go in a straight line and fuck both choices.
Right.
And one of the things that I always think of is there's no good way to know what the party's going to do. Is I was running a game here in my dining room, and it was just a like meet and greet D&D game one shot, and I just built a dungeon. There was no real story aside from like these dwarves are like slavers, go in there and rescue people. And I made enough content the last 6 hours, even though like we only had a 4-hour window. No matter what road they take, I got content for it. And these assholes spent like 2 hours in the foyer because there was a pit trap as soon as you come down the stairs. Well, they found the pit trap, and then what they did is they started fights and led people back to the pit trap and then kept shoving them in it. And so like they found the pit trap, and then they went upstairs and got like dead guards and came down and threw the fully like plate mail dwarven guards in the pit to make noise, which caused guards to come running out of the next room. And when they leaned over to look in the trap, here comes her, basically D&D Wookiee character to shove them in the pit. And like the next 5 fucking fights were just them kiting people back to this pit to go, what's all the dead guys in the pit? Shove. And like it got to the point that there was a fighter and a barbarian, and they both just started grappling people and then jumping into the pit and pulling them with them. And like, I swear to God, 2 hours of just them throwing people into this pit. And I was like, okay, well, screw the fact that I spent 4 hours like wet erase drawing this map on like the big Chessex map and everything. No, they didn't use half the dungeon. They didn't use the second floor. They didn't use the like I built this big gladiator pit where, depending on what role they had, certain gates would open, and they had all kinds of different beasts that had been captured from around the world. Nope, just a bunch of dwarfs thrown in a hole for 2 hours.
That's fantastic.
Yup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
I died there.
But I like making dungeons that are a straight line. Like that's what my first dungeon I ran for everyone was.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah.
A room, and then a room after that, and then a room. It's just a completely straight line the whole time.
I have long since abandoned the like, let me make a building that actually makes sense. Like the kitchen would be here, and then bedrooms would be, no, like
It doesn't
No.
translate.
Oh no.
no. And like 5-foot hallways, that's the one thing they always hated about Pathfinder, was we had a GM that liked more realistic buildings, and they would have 5-foot hallways. But he never stopped doing that, even once the party got to like 8 players with like 3 melee characters in a 5-foot hallway. And like we would run into other groups of people, and like, yeah, nobody else would get hurt because the meat shield is up front. But like,
Yeah.
it Pathfinder with 8 people, it already takes 45 minutes to make a table rotation. But if half the
Right.
group is like, I ready in action, and like, can I do this? No. Well, can I do? No. Well, can he duck? And no. Okay, well then I pass my turn.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I'm not like I don't. The Joe has his straight line hallways.
The Joe.
The
Mhm.
Joe. The
Hell
singular,
Joe.
Only one.
the most important Joe. I don't have straight line hallways, but simpler, not hallways, dungeons. Simpler dungeons are definitely. When we started the stream, we were knee deep in a mega dungeon that I had made. And it was really fun the first time down. And then it got to the point where like, okay, now you need to go talk to this group, you need to go talk to that group, you need to backtrack, you need to move here. And all of a sudden this real fun dungeon to move through became just tedious.
Yeah.
The worst. That's kind of a thing I'm looking forward in Zweihander. It's not a dungeon crawling game. So I can keep my few dungeons that I make to, as short as humanly possible to keep the party alive.
As we're approaching our hour mark here, I'll close out with one last question, I guess, kind of on the same stance as that. Like, I ran a mega dungeon and it sucks. I probably won't do that again. Is there anything that like y'all have tried and found in RPGs that didn't work, so you're not going to do anymore, like mega dungeons or 8-person parties, or is there anything that you just nope, I got a bad experience. I probably won't ever do that again.
Dungeon Crawl Classics funnels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah, the thing for me would be this. I tried running something back when I was in high school. When I was in high school, I played with a completely different. I lived in a different state, so we played 3.5 back then, and I always wanted to run a game. And the mistake I made was planning out the entire plot and arc and everything that would happen from the first session, and then they instantly walked the opposite direction and ignored all of it. So I very quickly abandoned that, and now the way I do it is I kind of do like modules where it's like I have this dungeon, this room, this building, this character planned out. However they decide to run into them, that's up to them. But eventually, once they stumble upon it, that's planned out content that they have.
One of those like witty, like, what's your tips for new DMs that I always throw in those kind of threads on Reddits and stuff like that is don't try to be ready for everything. Just try to be ready for anything. Like, don't plan out if they blank, then I will blank. Just have a bunch of stuff that you can pull out of a hat and like you said, modular. That's the way that I do all of my one-shots now. And it verges on railroading. Like, you can have a fun conversation about, is this technically railroading? But I make little modular tidbits that I can just swap in. So there is no longer this NPC is standing in the tavern and I need them to get to the tavern to talk to this guy. If they decide not to go to the tavern, if they go shopping and do X, Y, and Z, eventually I'll just put that guy somewhere where they'll run into him. If I need them to run in, if that is a plot point that like they have to do for this one shot to make sense, then I'll make it happen, because this isn't a real campaign. This is not like, I'm railroading your characters and you're not getting a fun experience. This is like, we got 4 hours and there needs to be some kind of closure at the end of this. So like, the guy's hiring you to go into the swamp and kill lizards. Arm wrestling dwarfs in the dock in the bar in the dock is great and stuff. We've had like 45 minutes of that, but like, let's into the swamp and fight lizards, because like, this is a one shot and I don't have time to like invent shit. Let's go.
Well, that's kind of the line with one shots, isn't it? You still want the party to feel like they have. You
can cliffhanger, like one shots end on cliffhangers real good, but you can't have accomplished nothing. Right. If everyone, like my hashtag Lord Cluck one shot, if everyone wants to play games with the chicken for 4 hours and like make jokes, cool, but like still progression of some sort. If they want to sit there in the bar and arm wrestle all the time, like that's cool. I can run a 4-hour session of that, but they need to be cognizant of the fact that those two characters having fun doing that, but there's also 2 other people and a DM, and so like let's move.
You gotta move. Yeah, it's everyone has responsibility at the table in that situation. The DM has responsibility to provide them what they need to move forward without removing all choice, without railroading and strong arming them into it. But at the same time, the players, they have a responsibility to help the DM move it along in a fun way. So
that's one of my like rants, and like I said, we're wrapping up, so I don't want to go into like a 30-minute rant on that thing, but I have this whole almost prepared speech at this point that like everyone at the table needs to be playing the same game. Everyone needs to step up more. So many times the GM is the GM, the like conflict resolution, like high school guidance counselor, the babysitter, the host, the only person that can work a calendar and get everyone in the same room, normally managing OBS and the stream. And like so many streams have the GM like running the stream and stuff like that. And it's like, let's spread stuff out. And I think you guys are one of the streams that does that, where like the GM is GMing. There's a guy to go fidget with sound levels and OBS and stuff like that, so that if something's not working, you don't have this awkward 5 people plus the audience staring at the one guy playing with OBS like I was at the beginning of this thing. Like somebody can go fix stream and the GM can GM. But more players need to realize when the party is stalled somewhere that they can help move the story along. More people need to step up and be like, the GM, every minute that the GM's not sending text to try and figure out if Johnny's going to make it this week, like if I'm the coordinator, the GM can be like world building and drawing maps, and I'm going to get a better game for it. But like I said, there's a whole rant there.
Yeah.
Might have something to do with me being a forever GM and tired of like wrangling everyone and drawing maps and being the host and cooking the food. And
it takes everyone, it's a group effort. There's definitely the people that just want to show up for 2 hours, play their character and leave and have fun at other people's expense. But definitely the best way to get at the best experience for everyone is everyone contributing equally, having an understanding that it takes more than just what I want to get done. And
I think that works both in and out of game though. Like it's great to show up with your lone wolf orphan like edgelord character and like have things that you want for your character to happen, but like in character you should also be helping the other characters fulfill their arcs, because it should be like, it's okay to be doing arcs that don't satisfy everyone. Like we go on Snuffy's quest and go do his stuff, but when we get done, like we go on somebody else's, and everyone was there for my bullshit like edgelord backstory, so like I can at least put effort into helping the bard get some or whatever we're doing this week.
Absolutely. It's that collaborative storytelling.
Storytelling in my RPGs, you don't say.
Right?
But I digress. I'll end out with the one thing that I'll never do again is we were going to play some Shadowrun, because I've wanted to play it since high school, and finally somebody offered to play some, and they came over and we were going to do a Shadowrun one-shot. Nope, just kidding. We're not doing a one-shot. He's actually going to do character building before we play. And fast forward 5 hours later, luckily I had acquired a second rulebook because he only showed up with one, despite the fact that there was 6 players. I had acquired the rulebook and like was helping multiple people build characters, but we got 5 hours through character building and people started being like, my stomach hurts, I'm gonna leave, I'll be right back, I got a text that my cat's on fire, and like like just started bailing. And I did 5 hours of Shadowrun and did not roll a single dice or learn anything about that system, or I could not regurgitate any of it or nothing. Like I still have no idea. So like I will never play a Shadowrun one shot again that does not come with pre-generated characters.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And at this point, if I ever play Shadowrun, it's probably going to be like Genesis or Cypher or Carbon 2185 in the world of Shadowrun, not, hey, let's go find a Shadowrun 5e core book and like teach people this.
Yeah. Who was it? Was it you who's telling the story? Bert, maybe from of Steam Steel and Murder podcast. There was someone telling a story about Shadowrun. And it was, the time that their group decided that they were done playing Shadowrun. And it was one of the players tossed a grenade into an elevator full of enemies.
Oh, yeah. I remember the story now. I don't remember who it was, but yeah.
It was someone from Notorious DMG, I'm sure of it. But, the elevator's door closed, the grenade exploded, and the GM closes the book like, well, let's come back in a couple of days because it's going to take me a long time to do all the math.
Yeah, tune in next week when I have the math to figure out how much this grenade damage just did in an elevator full of 11 people.
Yeah, because there's talking like you got to count for, are they wearing cloth armor? Are they wearing padded armor? Or, what are the walls made out of? This, that, and that's an intense game.
I love the concept. I love the cyberpunk fantasy concept. Orcs with cybernetic arms and halflings that like hack into the matrix, that's my jam. Yeah. But the system tends to shoot itself in the foot in trying to get in the way. And then a lot of like sci-fi systems do that. Like I would love to play some Eclipse Phase, but like the rulebook scares me. And again, it's probably something I would just use a generic system to play in that setting instead of trying to go through the rules to figure out how an octopus person with a human brain holding 8 9mm pistols is going to get through this round of combat. But I digress. It has been an hour, and I've got to go cook dinner for the wife, and then we're going to head and see our new little one.
Yeah, happy Father's Day, man.
Oh, yeah. I'm that guy now.
Yeah.
It's exciting. Like I said, summer's going to be weird for me with the suddenly baby who was not supposed to be here yet. But I would like to do more of these things, even if it's you two guys again or the whole group or whatever. And Chuck, since I first dragged you into that first one shot, I've been saying that I wanted to get in on a game when y'all were playing sometime, or that I would run a game for the Defenders of Kobold, or as much of them as we could pack into one room and listen to me talk for 4 hours. But I got 5e stuff, I got Star Wars stuff, I'm working on Genesis stuff, and I'm working on Tales of the Loop stuff. So figure it out amongst yourselves, and let's work out a time.
Yeah, I'm always in. Joe's in. Jake in the chat. We can wrestle him into it. Yeah,
strong arm.
Yeah, strong arm.
Go beat him up.
Marco Polo.
Yes.
Oh, that's a different story, Joe. We'll have to tell that at another time.
All right, I'll scribble a note down to ask about Marco Polo. But I'm going to jump out here. I'm going to go make some food. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. Thank everyone who was in the chat.
Thanks for having us.
And I'll be doing more of these. So if you guys want in on one of these, let me know. Bye.
Sounds good.